Hey guys, welcome back to the Cold Harbor Supply YouTube channel. I'm Steven, and today we're going to talk about the DJI Goggles 3 mount developed in collaboration with Tac Aerial. So when you guys get the Goggles 3 mount, it'll basically come with a few pieces. It'll be the mount itself. You'll get a hex key and a couple pieces of Velcro, which I've already stuck on. I'll talk about in a second. We developed this for use with Team Wendy helmets, as well as OpsCore helmets. And obviously, with some slight geometry changes between where the shrouds are, we've tried to optimize this as much as we can. The reason why we decided to do it like this and kind of keep the brow pad in place versus just selling the converted systems is we were getting requests from law enforcement users who basically had a limited number of goggles, or for whatever reason, they really wanted the ability to run it on their helmets, keep the ballistic protection, keep the comms, all that situational awareness, etc. But then also in situations where, let's say you're back at the van, you want to be able to not necessarily need the helmet, you can still run it that way. So the idea was to basically create a system that can go back and forth without having some permanently modified goggles. The other way that is a bit more bespoke and a bit more custom, but also far more ergonomic, is essentially the Goggles 3, where Tac Aerial has essentially done the full retrofit, where they can actually take your Goggles 3, tear it apart. The reason why we can't just kind of pull this off is because there's two antennas inside, and what they do is they actually hide the antennas in the body of the goggle and then run the wire appropriately. They'll cut this off. This whole battery pack will stay, but there's a wire that will allow you to move this back. So as you can see, by lowering this, now the goggles, I don't have to contend with the brow pan anymore. Every time I raise and lower, it's in the exact same spot. So, you inherit a lot of the functionality and adjustment of basically modern NVGs, and the consistency and the repeatability of being able to, let's say, get this on your head, and every time you drop the goggle, it's always there. There's no additional steps with the brow pad. But we understand that some users don't necessarily want to have a goggle that's only meant for helmet use, because once you do this mod, putting the brow pad on is not possible. Although I think Tac Aerial said that they're working on something that will add a strap back to a retrofitted goggle. I don't know too much about that. That might come in the future, but for now, essentially, it's sort of an all or nothing. You basically do the full retrofit, you get a very comfortable helmet-mounted Goggles 3, or we go with this solution, which is essentially in a fully optimized way to essentially run the Goggles 3 on the helmet as well as off the helmet. So when you first get it, depending on which version you get, the Goggles 3 mount from Tac Aerial is going to come with a dovetail mount or a bayonet mount. They're cross-compatible, and essentially what you do is with the same hex key, this is a 2mm hex key, you basically just undo these two bolts, swap this out, and then put the bayonet mount on. If you're buying it with bayonet, it'll come with it pre-attached. So when you get the mount, you're going to take your hex key, and on the bottom, the mount splits off in half. And you're just going to loosen this up, not all the way, although you can, but basically enough where it kind of gives you enough to work with. And all you're going to do is basically slip this over the top of your goggles. Now, the key here is you're not going to pinch the gap between the gray and the gasket. You're actually going to go a little bit further than that on the top, and then on the bottom, you're going to make sure that it grabs the bottom as well. So you'll see that there's a tooth here on the bottom. Make sure it's securely grabbing it. And then if you flip it around to this side, you're going to push the brow pad up, and you're going to see here that it's kind of grabbing a bit of the gasket here. Because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is you're not going to get a very secure hold on the goggle, and this thing is going to essentially pull the plastic out. Not to worry, the gasket's pretty resilient, but essentially you're basically trying to grab as much of the goggle as you can. So after this is done, you're going to have a gap here. Take your hex key and just tighten it up. You're going to want to close the gap, and this should close no problem. And then don't over tighten it. So as long as the gap is flush, you're good to go. Give it a nice pull to make sure it's not going to pull out, and just double check here that you've securely grabbed the bottom of the goggle here. The Goggles 3 mount will come pre-lubricated at the hinge, and how you loosen it is basically, you can do it by hand. You actually get a set of needle nose pliers if you want to apply more torque to it, but basically this will allow you to really get it dialed into your face. Before you put this on, you're going to basically pull the factory comfort pad off. It's just basically a sticker. You're not going to rip it, but basically it's just stuck on with double-sided adhesive. You're going to pull it off. And then I've already done this on this kit, but you'll actually get a piece of hook and loop Velcro that's pre-cut for this. And essentially what you're going to do is you're going to put the hook side on the battery pack and the loop side on this factory foam pad you're going to need this if you ever want to move between a helmet use or just regular, call it like a naked head use. The reason why is so that you can basically tear this off, keep it with you, and then what ends up happening is once you get it onto the helmet itself, dovetail goes in like any night vision. So if you guys are running nods, should be fairly familiar with that. The reason why we put the hook Velcro on is because your helmet, most helmets, kind of around the top of your head will have some loop Velcro, whether it's Ops Core, Team Wendy, etc. The idea here now is you want to loosen this and give the strap as much slack as possible and essentially just stick this on the top. So kind of do a quick fit test, lower it, and you can see it works pretty good before you put it on your head. Otherwise, you're going to be futzing around with it and you're not going to be in for a good time. So you kind of want it to make it look like how you would normally wear it, right? So as close to how you would normally wear it as you can, and then essentially just pull this up. Now you can do a real test fit. So get your helmet on, do the harness, chin strap if you want, and then you're going to just lower this in front of your face. One thing I have to note is that the brow pad is, just by nature of the strap and where you have the battery pack, it's going to pull and adjust the brow pad in its various configurations. So when you lower the goggle, you do need to essentially kind of basically come over here and pinch the brow pad. So you kind of lower it to kind of get it as close to the goggle and helmet as possible. And then you're going to basically get it in front of your face. You want to do a function test also. So you're going to power the goggle on. And then what you're looking for is that, especially if you guys are familiar with the Goggles 3, is you're looking for the fact that the goggle is not going to just shut off on you, right? So there's a light sensor on the inside of the goggle that basically tells the goggle, like, listen, if the goggle's away from my face, turn the screen off. So what you don't want is, you don't want to be in a situation where you kind of basically put the goggle in front of your face and the goggle doesn't even turn on. So you want to adjust your night vision mount or the tilt, etc. So whether it's fore, aft, up, down, either on your night vision mount or actually on the goggles itself, you want to get it as snug to your face as possible without being too uncomfortable. But essentially what you're looking for is a way for you to basically lower the goggle to your face and have the goggles fire up every time. Keep in mind that the biggest physical obstacle is really going to be the actual brow pad itself, because you can imagine you have the brim of your helmet here, then you got the brow pad and you got the goggles. Some users may find that they need to essentially tilt the helmet back slightly to accommodate for the brow pad. All right, so the Goggles 3, as you guys know, work with any DJI Air Unit 04 Air Unit, as well as, I believe, the Air 3, the Mini 4 Pro, the Avata 2 that we have here that seems to be the preferred tactical drone. It also works with the Neo, the little small one. And like I said, any drone. So if you guys are doing FPV yourselves, like building your FPV drones, any drone that uses the 04 Air Unit will work with the Goggles 3. Most people buy the Goggles 3 with the Avata 2, but keep in mind that you could use the Goggles 3 with any of the other drones that I just previously mentioned. So I anticipate the Goggles 3, especially like, the mount and all of this, to stick around for quite a while. There's probably rumors of the Avata 3 probably being backwards compatible with the Goggles 3. Typically, that's how DJI has done it, where they maintain some backwards compatibility with a new generation of drones. So I anticipate the Goggles 3 to still be quite relevant as time goes on. Hopefully that was helpful, guys. If you have any questions, let us know down in the comments or shoot us an email. Thanks.